Today's topic is food pyramids. So I have my little journal with me. I wrote down my notes. So food pyramids are basically just a pyramid-shaped model that are labeled from producers to consumers, showing a flow of energy. And it's just basically a little infographic used in biology or biological sciences to display like the flow of energy from like one organism to another, or organisms, because there's usually multiple in a food pyramid. Okay, so the important thing about food pyramids is that food pyramids, the energy flow does not start at producers, but it starts with the sun. So I guess a pyramid may not be the best way to draw it, but it's usually a pyramid and you have your producers at the bottom. But then they're like, for the best drawing, or like on the one I drew, there's like a little sun, and the energy goes from the sun to the producers. So of the organisms, the biotic beings, I guess the producer would have the most energy. So the producers are like our autotrophs, meaning they make their own food. They have the most energy, so like 100% energy, if you were to do it mathematically. Okay, after our producers, we have our primary consumers, which have about 10% of the energy, because as you move up the pyramid from one organism eating in one to another, the primary consumers, meaning one, or like first, they eat the producers. So they eat like the plants and the bushes and trees and whatever, make their own food, or the autotrophs that make their own food using the sun's energy. So primary consumers, they have 10% of the energy, because if you want to find out how much energy it is, it's just keep dividing by 10. So 100 divided by 10 is 10. So they have 10% of the energy from the sun. After primary consumers, we have, you guessed it, secondary consumers, because they're the second round of consumers and they eat the primary consumer. For example, if we had like a bug or something that ate like plants, the primary consumer would be like a bigger bug, or like a little, like an anteater or something that eats those bugs that eat plants. So they're secondary. And going with our pattern, we divide by 10 to find the amount of energy they have. So since primary consumers had 10%, 10% divided by 10 is 1. So they have 1% of the energy. Afterwards, we have our tertiary consumers. Tertiary consumers, you guessed it, they eat the secondary consumers, because they just eat whatever levels below them on the pyramid. They get their energy from them. And how much energy they have? They have 1/10% energy. That's a really small amount, but that's how much they found. They're also our apex predator, because they're like the top predator. So an important fact to note is that all of the consumers that eat the producers, meaning that their food and their energy doesn't come from the sun, or they don't make their food themselves, they're called heterotrophs. That means an animal that gets its energy from other organisms. And then producers are obviously our one exception, because they get their energy from the sun, so they make it themselves using like photosynthesis. Lastly, we have our decomposers. Normally, people don't draw decomposers into the pyramid. It's usually just producers and consumers, because decomposers can basically break down or get energy from producers and basically any level of consumers. They just break down like dead organisms and dead plants and animals. Put it into the soil, so it's kind of that like circle of life concept. So these are like your mushrooms and your fungus. So just remembering those trophic levels from producer. So we start at our producer, and then we go to our primary consumer, and then we do our secondary consumer, and then our tertiary consumer, or our apex predator. And remember that energy is flowing from one being to another. So people also try to represent this sort of concept of animals getting energy from one another in like food webs, where you have like I'll like put a picture in where there's like an animal and there's like an arrow, meaning the energy flows from like that animal to this animal because it eats it. So yeah, this was really short. Hope it helps you understand food pyramids. It's a little bit better. Yeah. Have any questions? As always, comment those down below. I'll try and answer them.